This is it, everyone, the end of Blackest Night. This is the final installment in a 7-part series of videos focusing on the Green Lantern-centric DC Universe event, and if for some reason this is the video you found first, I recommend watching the rest of my Blackest Night playlist before continuing with this video, since we're about to talk in detail about the grand finale of this story. To wrap things up, we'll be taking a look at the Atom and Hawkman number 46, Blackest Night number 7, Green Lantern Corps number 46, Green Lantern number 52, Blackest Night number 8, and Green Lantern Corps number 47. It's all come down to this, so let's get into it. The Atom and Hawkman number 46 is written by Geoff Johns, with art by Ryan Sook and Fernando Pasarin, colors by Hi-Fi, and letters by Nick J. Napolitano. Before we get into the contents of the story, I want to talk about what this issue actually is, because it's a really cool idea. Since Blackest Night is a story about all these dead characters being resurrected as zombies, somebody at DC got the idea to resurrect some dead series. 8 cancelled books were selected from throughout DC's publishing history, and they all got to come back for one more issue. Using the Atom and Hawkman as an example, the Blackest Night tie-in is issue 46, published in 2010, and the previous issue in this series was number 45, which came out way back in 1969. This was such a good idea, and the scope of it was small enough that it didn't outstay its welcome. I'm not going to be covering the rest of the resurrected issues, because they mostly require you to know the context of the series they're a part of. But the Atom is a character we've been following since Blackest Night began, and this issue does more or less resolve his storyline, so I think it's important enough to include. Speaking of that storyline, the issue opens on the Indigo Ring making Ray Palmer, the Atom, reflect on how his relationship with Jean Loring has impacted his life. How he was withdrawn from the world until he found a troubled person that he thought he could save. But that's not a healthy basis for a relationship, so their love fell apart, causing Ray to withdraw even further. He always wished he had a love like Elongated Man and Sue, or Hawkman and Hawkgirl. But then Jean killed Sue, and now what's left of Hawkman and Hawkgirl are trying to kill him. To Ray's credit, he's not letting the Black Lantern Hawks manipulate him. He knows about their cycle of reincarnation and takes comfort in the fact that no matter what happens, they'll be back. Still, Atom isn't used to fighting with a power ring, and the Hawks quickly overwhelm him. He's saved by Indigo 1, who gives him a quick lesson in how to reach out and empathically tap into the power of nearby lanterns. Indigo 1 is in the process of coordinating with the rest of her tribe as they move to bring all of the Lantern Corps to Earth, but she needs time, so Ray will have to defend her until the job is done. Easier said than done, since now there are 2 pairs of Hawks to deal with, the modern-day Hawkman and Hawkgirl, as well as their original Egyptian selves, Khufu and Shiera. Ray tries to play this smart. He knows that mixing a Green Lantern's power with his Indigo Light will destroy a Black Lantern permanently, so he tries tapping into Hal's ring. But because he's never done this before, he accidentally grabs Orange Lantern power instead, which changes his tone considerably. Ray screams at the Black Lanterns about how his friends were taken from him, and he wants them back, while fighting the Black Lantern Hawks with orange constructs depicting living versions of Hawkman and Hawkgirl. But then Jean shows up. She recovered from what Deadman and Mara did to her, and now she enters Indigo 1's ring and begins corrupting it, disrupting the whole process. Ray follows her and is forced to relive his most tragic losses, including the moment of Sue's murder. Still, there's nothing he can do, since he's overwhelmed with a mix of love, compassion, and rage every time he sees Jean. She keeps pushing and pushing, trying to break him, and it almost works. But Ray got that Indigo ring for a reason. His defining emotion is compassion. He cares, and Jean has been using the fact that he cares as a weapon against him. His past, his love, he cares about all of it, and that's why he can't let this continue anymore. He can't let his tragic past exploit his compassion to ruin his life. And in that moment, he makes the decision to move on from Jean. He'll never forget her, but he won't allow himself to be haunted by her anymore. He focuses and finds the willpower he needs, and in a stunning finale, destroys Black Lantern Jean Loring with the symbol of the Atom, made of a combination of willpower and compassion. Indigo 1 completed her task. The cores are on their way. Now all that's left to do is live long enough to greet them. Blackest Night number 7, written by Jeff Johns with pencils by Evan Hayes, inks by Claire Albert and Joe Prado, colors by Alex Sinclair, and letters by Nick J. Napolitano. Hal Jordan and the others finally make it to Necron, but their combined power isn't enough to even warrant Necron paying attention to them. Instead, they have to deal with Black Hand, as he rants about how unfair life is, and how only in death is everyone equal. Hal tries to tell Black Hand that nihilism is a choice, but he isn't listening, and is instead forcing Hal down into an abyss of death and torment. And credit where it's due, Hal is saved by Scarecrow, running up and hitting Black Hand with a pitchfork. Once again, just let Scarecrow be a lantern, he wants it so much and is putting in the effort. But just like DC, Lex Luthor can't wait to rip the yellow ring right off of Scarecrow's finger. Lex has succumbed to the power of the Orange Lantern, and stopped fighting the Black Lantern so he can try stealing the rings from everyone else. He takes the yellow ring from Scarecrow, and would have taken Mara's Red Lantern ring if the Atom hadn't stepped in and helped her. Everything is falling apart fast, and the heroes could really use some help. Meanwhile, Dove is still just casually walking around emitting white light, obliterating everything in her path, when she gets the idea to go give the Black Central Battery a big hug. The battery does seem to react, but only enough to wake up the Anti-Monitor. Oh yeah, by the way, the Anti-Monitor is inside the Black Central Battery. This is the same Anti-Monitor who destroyed the multiverse way back in the original Crisis on Infinite Earths. He attacked the Earth again during the Sinestro Corps War and then vanished into space, where he was then captured and imprisoned inside the Black Lantern Central Battery to help power the Black Rings. Now he wants out, and he is mad at Necron. So we could potentially have to deal with a very pissed off Anti-Monitor on top of everything else. And in case you forgot, there are billions of Black Lanterns approaching Earth from space, and despite his best efforts, Jon Stewart can't do anything to even slow them down. Then a warning comes over the rings. Emotional spectrum detonation imminent. An explosion of indigo light comes out of nowhere, as every single lantern from every core is teleported into the space just above Earth's atmosphere. Their instinct is to fight each other, since they've been at war for a very long time at this point, but the Black Lanterns come first. And apparently, Black Lantern Airwave had been jamming local ring communications, so destroying him allowed all of the Corps to finally receive pre-recorded messages from their leaders on Earth, updating them on the situation and ordering a truce until this is all over. 7 Corps are going to fight as one, but it may not be enough. Even with the entirety of every Corps working together, they're still outnumbered nearly 3 billion to 1. Back on the ground, it's finally time for Necron to do what he's been building up to this entire time. Since the Guardians are the oldest living beings in the universe, they have the strongest connection to the white light of creation, which makes them perfect sacrifices for Necron's ritual. Necron and Black Hand kill one of the Guardians, form a summoning circle, and give the command: Trespasser, rise. A geyser of white light erupts from beneath the ground, and cradled within the light sits an alien being with angelic features glowing white. This is the Life Entity, the source of all light and life in the universe, all there ever has been and will be. And now that Necron has finally unearthed it, he means to kill it. All living things are connected to the Life Entity. When it feels pain, everyone in the universe feels pain. If it dies, everything dies with it. The Guardians knew this could happen, which is why they dedicated their lives to hiding the Life Entity, erasing all trace of it from history. They had hoped to prevent Earth from ever being the center of attention, and tried their best to keep humans out of the Green Lantern Corps. But all that came to an end when Abin Sur learned the truth. And when nobody would believe him or take his side, he came to Earth himself, which is how we arrived at Hal Jordan's origin story. Sinestro is beyond furious, to the point that I'm kinda surprised a Red Ring isn't trying to claim him in this moment. In his eyes, the Guardians threw Abin's life away to prop up their lies, and then pretended that life started on their own homeworld to justify their authority over the rest of the universe. Hal figures their best shot is for someone to merge with the life entity like he did with Parallax, and Sinestro demands to be the one to do it. All of this, means that Abin Sur was right all along. None of this would be happening if he had believed his friend. The Black Lanterns never would have risen. Abin would still be alive. Sinestro flies right up to the life entity, grabs it, and demands it relinquish its power. And in a blinding flash of light, Sinestro emerges as the very first White Lantern in the universe. An important thing to remember is that Sinestro never stopped believing in the Green Lantern Corps' ability to make the universe safer, but he also believes that it requires things to be done his way, which is ultimately what led him to getting thrown out of the Corps, and how he ended up creating the Yellow Rings. Sinestro would show them that his way was right, even if it meant building himself back up from nothing. And in this moment, when he lashes out with a yellow construct of himself, it's wearing a Green Lantern uniform, because on some level, Sinestro still sees himself as a Green Lantern. He still believes in the Corps, and now he's going to show the entire universe that he was right. Green Lantern Corps number 46, written by Peter J. Tomasi with pencils by Patrick Gleason, inks by Rebecca Buckman, Keith Champagne, and Tom Wynn, colors by Randy Mayer and Gabe Eltaib, and letters by Steve Wands. All the Corps are fighting Black Lanterns in Earth's orbit, and they're being overrun. Guy Gardner decides that the best course of action is to copy a thing he saw on Star Trek one time, specifically episode 64 of the original series. And while he tells everyone the plan, John and Kilowog start putting together a strike team to go deal with the planet Xanshi, which is still moving towards Earth. All of the Corps get into position, and make a massive grid of interwoven spectrum energy that they then drag through the mass of Black Lanterns, destroying thousands of Black Rings, until an additional 100,000 Black Lanterns come up from the Earth to ambush the Corps, causing the grid to collapse and throwing everyone in random directions. Kyle is confronted by the Black Lantern of his first love, Alexandra DeWitt, who forces him to reenact her murder at the hands of Major Force, this time with Kyle acting out Major Force's role. The symbolism is good since it speaks directly to how Kyle feels responsible for her death, even though he wasn't directly involved, and this moment does remind me of what John is currently experiencing with Katma-Tui and Xanshi, in that this may be the moment when Kyle is finally able to move on. But this whole scene is far too gratuitous with its depiction of violence, both in terms of what Kyle is physically doing, and what the Black Lantern is describing about the actual mechanics of Alex's death. The whole thing feels gross, and not zombie movie gross, just inappropriate. This scene is a reminder that Alex only ever existed to prop up Kyle, and bringing her back to focus on how badly she suffered only serves to show us that they never saw her as a character in the first place, which is a real shame. I guess it's ironic that both Kyle and Guy started all of this wishing they could go home and see their loved ones, and now they're back on Earth's doorstep fighting Black Lanterns wearing the faces of the people they care about the most. When the grid collapses, Guy lands in the arms of his true love, Tora, the hero known as Ice, who's died and come back once before, meaning she became a Black Lantern just like Wonder Woman and Superman did. She pokes and prods at the doubts Guy has about the path he's chosen, saying that if he actually loved her more than his job, he'd be here on Earth instead of on the other side of the universe. Black Lantern Tora is leaning into Guy's compassion so he'd drop his guard. She encased them both in a shell of ice and was about to slam it into the ground, shattering and killing Guy in the process. But Guy breaks free just in time. He doesn't know what really happened to Ice, but he knows defeating the Black Lanterns will probably fix it, and right now, that's good enough for him. Thanks to Tora, Guy's now on Earth, where he realizes that, oh god, the Anti-Monitor is here! Guy and Kyle round up as many lanterns as they can find and hit the Anti-Monitor with everything they've got, but it's not working. Since this is all happening at the Black Central Battery, Dove is right there, and when Monk notices that she's literally a bug zapper that destroys Black Lanterns, they form the coolest plan. Dove is placed inside of a big construct bullet, and loaded into a giant sniper rifle made by Bedovian, the best sniper in the Sinestro Corps. The Red Lanterns use their napalm to blind the Anti-Monitor, giving Bedovian an opening. He takes the shot, and the bullet-containing dove passes through the spectrum energy of the different cores just to give her an extra boost in power. The Anti-Monitor is just like Scar, so saturated with the power of death that he's become vulnerable to the white light. And now, a living bullet of white light wrapped in spectrum energy hits him right between the eyes. Guy safely catches Dove on the other side, and the Lanterns start trying to pull the lifeless body of the Anti-Monitor out of the battery. But the battery won't let go. It seems the Anti-Monitor doesn't actually need to be alive to feed energy to the Black Lanterns, which does make sense, but it also means that the cores haven't made any progress stopping the actual main threat. So they decide it's time to pool their power and go attack Nekron directly. Green Lantern number 52, written by Jeff Johns with pencils by Doug Mahnke, inks by Christian Almay, Rebecca Buckman, and Keith Champagne, colors by Randy Mayer, Gabe Altaib, and Kerry Strachan, and letters by Rob Lay. John and his team of Lanterns are fighting their way to the planet Xanshi, which is now close enough to Earth that the heroes on the ground are feeling the effects of the other planet's gravity. Suddenly, every Black Lantern in outer space just stops, and then flies directly towards Earth, targeting Coast City. What got their attention was White Lantern Sinestro, who now wields the power of the Life Entity and is utterly demolishing the army of Black Lanterns in front of him. As far as Sinestro is concerned, this has always been his destiny, to become the ultimate Lantern, the true guardian of the universe. And as he obliterates Black Lanterns by the thousand, he communes with the Life Entity, witnessing a vision of how all life truly began. Sinestro sees the moment light first entered the infinite dark void of the universe, the formation of planets and stars, the birth of the first life forms, and eventually, the birth of the emotional spectrum. The very first living thing to ever feel a particular emotion became the embodiment of that emotion. Ion, Parallax, and all the other entities started life as simple creatures, until the moment when they felt something that nothing else had felt before, and it changed them forever. Sinestro is loving this whole experience, to the point that he doesn't even notice Nekron come up behind him and cut him in half long ways. Hal knocks Nekron away, which honestly is kind of impressive by itself, while the Blue and Indigo Lanterns rush in to assist and defend Sinestro's body. There are two moments in this issue where it's alluded to that the Life Entity may have been sent to this universe from somewhere else, maybe even by someone else. Which is honestly the kind of tease that I love, but unfortunately it has never been followed up on in this or any other story. Just then, Xanshi fires a blast at the Earth, creating a tsunami that could wipe out Coast City. Hal makes a wall to hold the water back, but there's nothing to stop Xanshi from firing again. And the Black Lanterns raining down from Xanshi are beginning to swarm the heroes on Earth. John's team doesn't have much time. They dig down into Xanshi's core, destroying Black Lantern Cat Matui along the way, which would have meant a lot more if John and Fatality had interacted with her together before this moment. Eventually, the Lanterns come across a grotesque mass of thousands of black rings that seem to be holding Xanshi together. They destroy it, and in a brilliant flash of light and color, the planet Xanshi is gone. And it isn't alone. All of the billions of Black Lanterns that originated on Xanshi are also destroyed in that moment. This is a loss so big that even Nekron feels it. John's team flies down to Earth and puts up a shield to protect Coast City from the remnants of Xanshi that are raining down from the sky. Once again, Fatality, the sole survivor of the planet Xanshi, the person whose entire life and character motivation hinged on the death of her world and its people, is standing right there and has nothing to say. She was part of John's team. She helped blow Xanshi up a second time, which should be a massive deal for her. And in all of it, she spoke twice, and her dialogue was more lifeless than Nekron. After a few moments, Sinestro's body recovers completely from Nekron's attack, and he's ready to keep fighting. Which leads us directly into Blackest Night number 8, written by Jeff Johns with pencils by Evan Hayes, inks by Eau Claire Albert and Joe Prado, colors by Alex Sinclair, and letters by Nick J. Napolitano. White Lantern Sinestro is fighting Nekron with everything he's got. This is personal, because destroying Nekron means fulfilling Abin Sur's mission. Sinestro restrains Nekron with chains held by constructs of Abin Sur, and goes for an ironic finishing move by harvesting Nekron's heart. But it's not that easy. A random Black Lantern picks up Nekron's scythe and just becomes Nekron. Sinestro can't beat Nekron, because he doesn't truly understand what Nekron is, or how to fight him. But Nekron knows exactly how to put an end to both Sinestro and life itself. Before Hal and the others can help Sinestro, they get ambushed by Black Lantern Martian Manhunter and the rest of the Black Lantern Justice League. But they're only at a disadvantage for a moment, because backup has finally arrived. Every Lantern left alive, the Justice Society, the Titans, and what remains of the Justice League all come raining down on the Black Lanterns with everything they have. Every Lantern of every corps fires on Nekron as he tries to rip the life entity out of Sinestro. In the chaos, Deadman possesses Guy Gardner to deliver a message. He'd been possessing Black Lanterns in an attempt to gather useful information, and he discovered that Nekron isn't a being. He's more like the embodiment of dark emptiness. Imagine outer space without any stars or planets in it. That's what Nekron is. A physical body is just his way of interacting with the world of the living. You can't defeat that, but you can cut off its access to the living world. The only reason Nekron is able to be here is because he tethered himself to something that would anchor him here. And that something is Black Hand. Fix Black Hand, restore him to life, and Nekron will be banished back to where he came from. Nekron finally succeeded at separating Sinestro from the life entity. Black Hand tries restraining Hal again, ranting about how this is all pointless, because life has no purpose. But then Barry swoops in to make the save, and proclaims that life isn't supposed to give us purpose. We're supposed to give life purpose. We hope for something, and then we fight for it. We make our lives matter. Hal flies directly towards the life entity. He doesn't care if he and his friends have a connection to Nekron. He doesn't care what Nekron says about how they all came back from the dead. All Hal cares about is the fact that he chose life over death, and he knows the same is true for all of his friends. And as the white light washes over all of them, every resurrected hero is freed from the rings that bind them, and emerge as a White Lantern Corps with Black Hand in their sights. The life entity reaches out and touches William Hand, restoring him to life. He coughs up a white ring that flies through the air, piercing Nekron's heart, before entering the Black Central Battery and reviving the Anti-Monitor, who bursts out of his prison and immediately begins attacking Nekron. Nekron manages to banish the Anti-Monitor back to the Antimatter universe, but Black Hand is still coughing up white rings, which fly through Nekron's body, destroying it, before locking onto their actual targets. 12 dead heroes and villains, including Jade, Hawkman and Hawkgirl, Martian Manhunter, Firestorm, and Aquaman, all are miraculously alive again. The sight of Aquaman causes Mara's love to overwhelm her rage, breaking her red ring and sending her into cardiac arrest. Thankfully, Carol is there and manages the same trick that Miri used to revive Kyle. She uses Aquaman's heart to beat for Mara's until St. Walker can use his blue ring to undo the damage done by the red ring. And theirs isn't the only love to get a second chance. Hawkgirl now remembers all of her past lives and is ready to embrace her feelings for Hawkman. Jade jumps into Kyle's arms right in front of Saranik Natu, unaware of how much has changed since she's been gone. And while it's a joyous occasion to see so many people get another chance at life, it doesn't take Barry Allen long to wonder why it was limited to these 12. Why not more? Why were Captain Boomerang and Reverse Flash brought back, but not Elongated Man and Sue? And what in the world is Deadman supposed to do now that he's no longer a ghost? It all gets interrupted when Larfleeze throws Lex Luthor back to the heroes in disgust, insisting that they take care of him since he's an Earth problem. Everyone laughs because Larfleeze, the greediest being in the universe, just gave something away for the first time. But that moment of levity doesn't change the fact that there are still so many unanswered questions. Before anyone could notice, the Indigo tribe left, and they took Black Hand with them. Now he's a prisoner on their homeworld, stumbling along like a zombie with indigo light filling his eyes. The story ends where it began, with Hal and Barry standing in a Gotham City cemetery, looking at the grave of Bruce Wayne, wondering what it all means. They know it's up to them to give their lives purpose, but that doesn't mean they'll live without regrets. There's no telling how resurrection will work from this point on, or even if it will at all. What about the future of all the different Lantern Corps? Did this shared experience change anything? And what about the life entity? Where's it going to go now that its secret is out? So many questions, but life doesn't give you answers. It just gives you the opportunity to find those answers eventually, if you're willing to keep searching. Now, before we wrap this up, let's take a look at the story's epilogue in the pages of Green Lantern Corps number 47. Written by Peter J. Tomasi with pencils by Patrick Gleason, inks by Rebecca Buckman, Tom Wynn, Keith Champagne, and Mark Irwin, colors by Randy Mayer, and letters by Steve Wands. Back on Oa, the Green Lantern Central Battery is standing tall once again. Every structure on the face of the planet needs to be either repaired or rebuilt, and the Corps will be dealing with the fallout of Blackest Night for a long time. But thanks to Mogo and Morrow, the Crypt Keeper, they can at least take comfort in knowing that the Lanterns who died will finally be able to rest in peace. Simply rebuilding the crypt on Oa didn't seem right, since every Green Lantern turned Black Lantern is eternally breaking down in Mogo's molten core. So instead, they're being memorialized through life. A tree growing on Mogo will serve as their monument, with the image of a different fallen lantern appearing on every leaf. Mogo will see to it that the tree will never come down, and the leaves will never fall or blow away. And at the base of the tree will be an eternal flame that will continue to burn as long as at least one Green Lantern ring still shines somewhere in the universe. Now that the crisis has passed, Salak resumes normal recruitment protocols, and every ring that had been sent to Mogo for safekeeping leaves the planet in search of a new bearer. It's a sight that's equal parts beautiful and terrible. Every one of those rings belonged to a Green Lantern who died during Blackest Night, and seeing them all take off at once shows everyone just how bad their losses really were. It hits Kilowog particularly hard, since he trained most of those lanterns. Kilowog has dedicated his life to teaching new recruits everything they need to know to survive, and he still ends up burying so many of them. It's just too much. Kilowog tells Salak that he's stepping down from his position as drill instructor. He says it's only temporary, and Salak logs it as a leave of absence. Kilowog just needs to get back out there and remember what it's like to be a regular Green Lantern who doesn't shoulder the burden of every new generation. Something like this can never be allowed to happen again, which is why Kyle, Guy, and Aricia go to see the Guardians. The dust hasn't even settled yet, and the Guardians are already back to business as usual, sealed up in their private chamber where they make decisions that impact the lives of everyone in the universe, based on nothing but their own assumed wisdom. Guy begins by running down a list of just the most recent bad decisions that the Guardians have made that ended in tragedy. Kyle continues by explaining to them the reasons why acting on nothing but cold logic won't lead to the ending they're hoping for, and that so many Green Lanterns already turned in their rings before Blackest Night even started because they disagree with the way the Guardians have been running things, and more will absolutely follow. And not for nothing, but Blackest Night was stopped by overly emotional people following their hearts. You can't replace that with Manhunters or Alpha Lanterns or even a council of emotionally unavailable immortals. Aricia takes a less diplomatic approach and punches one of the Guardians in the face as hard as she can. At the end of the day, they're not requesting that the Guardians make changes, they're demanding it. Blackest Night only happened because the Guardians failed. They failed to take the prophecy seriously, they failed to notice the traitor in their midst. Hell, all those years ago, Abin came to them for help with this, and they pretended there was nothing to worry about. If there's going to be a Green Lantern Corps after this, the Guardians have to change. And to their credit, they take the first step by repealing one of their newest laws, prohibiting members of the Corps from becoming romantically involved with each other. Great news for Kyle and Saranic, and hopefully a sign of things to come. And I think that'll do it for my coverage of Blackest Night. This is the biggest and most extensive project I've done on this channel so far. And yet, despite rambling on for 7 videos, there's still so much more that I didn't get to talk about. These issues are packed with so many characters and so much happening that I literally couldn't make it all fit, including things that I never noticed until going through it this time. Whether you've read Blackest Night before or not, I highly encourage you to go read this story the next chance you get, even if you've already watched my videos, because you will absolutely discover new things during your own reading. So if you've made it this far, thank you so very, very much. I hope you had as much fun as I did, and hopefully you'll stick around for whatever I do next. Because stories like this remind me of how much fun comics can be, and I want to keep sharing that experience with all of you. And I really want to know what you thought of Blackest Night. Did the ending live up to your expectations? How do you feel about this whole thing, both as a DC event and as a Green Lantern story? Tell me all about it in the comments down below, and if you aren't already subscribed, hopefully that's about to change. Thank you for taking the time to watch. My name is Dan, we'll talk again soon. Happy Halloween!